He's still running Incineroar, Gengar, Landorus, Tapu Fini, Zapdos, and Kartana. Alright, and so if you're Alex in this position, you're probably wondering what role does the Chandelure have? It's most likely an attacker, but what set does it have? What item does it have? You can probably deduce that it may be a either a sash or a Z crystal item, whether and then on and then whatever the Breloom has. So it's either the Breloom has a stash, Chandelure has a Z crystal, or Chandelure has a stash, or Breloom has a Z crystal. Um, and so here we go. Getting into game one here quickly. We have Zapdos and Seismitoad on Samuel's side, and we do have Incineroar and Zapdos on Alex's side. So Seismitoad is a pretty interesting Pokemon. It has a nice moveset. It's almost like a Gastrodon with Swift Swim. And of course, the Incineroar on Alex's side is still has that fake out pressure on the opposing Zapdos. So Alex is probably going to try to set up his own Tailwind, while Samuel's probably going to try to position himself to set up his own Tailwind himself. And Muddy Water coming right out of the gate. See how much this does to both Zapdos and Incineroar. It does over half for Incineroar, but does not proc the berry, but he does get the accuracy drop on Zapdos. And it does reveal a Life Orb. So that extra 30% damage coming at a cost of 10% of its max health. So now on the side of Alex, we do have the Tailwind up. So now we can see that the Zapdos is in a good spot to just to get off a Thunderbolt against the other Zapdos. However, with the accuracy drop, he may be pressured to switch out. And so he just goes for the Thunderbolt onto Zapdos here. Takes it down to above half. The knockoff does take Seismitoad to below half and gets rid of the Life Orb, so the amount of damage that is going to come out of that Seismitoad has been hindered. Another Muddy Water coming across. It should knock out that Incineroar. Alright, Incineroar is down, Zapdos is below half health. So since Samuel did match the Tailwind of Alex, it's a little bit of a neutralized board state here. So Kartana comes in, and it's going to threaten both Zapdos and Seismitoad. Zapdos is almost low enough to probably get knocked out from a Kartana. And Seismitoad, of course, is being threatened by the Leaf Blade coming from Kartana. So we do see the Protect out of Seismitoad, fearing that Leaf Blade. And that goes into Zapdos. And it does about half of its remaining health, so just enough in the range for the berry to proc here. And it is a citrus berry. The Heat Wave comes across, and it should knock out that Kartana, but it has a sash. Alright, the Roost does come across for Alex's Zapdos. So now we're still in an interesting spot here. Seismitoad is more than likely going to switch out because it already has used its Protect. So I don't know if Samuel's willing to risk the double Protect at this time, just because Kartana does have its sights set on that knockout there. So Seismitoad does switch out into Breloom, and Kartana does protect, calling that switch out there. Zapdos does roost and gets almost all of its HP back. Zapdos trying to set up Tailwind while Tailwind was in play, and it does not work that way, unfortunately. Alright, so now Samuel does have one turn of Tailwind left, because he was stopped by Fake Out earlier. Kartana switches out into Gengar, so we now know what 4 Pokemon Alex did bring this game. Heat Wave does come across. It does a respectable amount of damage, and the Spore. Normally you don't see too many Spores with all the Tapu Finis and Tapu Kokos running around, but in this case it seems to pay off. Alright, so both Tailwinds have now ended, and we do see the Mega Gengar possibility here to lock in Breloom and Zapdos. But I don't, and that's very scary for Samuel, because it just takes a quick switch out here to Kartana, and it may put him in a very good board spot. Alright, so Breloom also switches out, and we do see Seismitoad. So we do see that Pelipper Seismitoad rain mode come into play here. Alright, Zapdos does wake up quickly and gets the Tailwind off to help match that Swift Swim from Seismitoad. And so, let's see here. And if you're on Samuel's side, you're probably wondering which Pokemon to double up into here. However, he does opt for the Protect. Alright. So even with the Swift Swim boost here, he may not be fast enough to knock out this Gengar. So Pelipper does go down, and we'll see who comes in to replace that spot. It is the Zapdos. So this healthy Zapdos, it's already used its berry, so we should keep that in mind. Now, Gengar is still in a very commanding spot here, threatening to knock out on Seismitoad, which he doesn't go for. But Zapdos does pick it up with the Hidden Power. So the Tailwind is now matched on Samuel's side. And we'll see the Breloom come back in. Alright, so Alex is in a pretty commanding spot here, having the extra Pokemon in the back with the option to switch. And the potentially the two fastest Pokemon on the field, pending any speed ties. So Icy Wind does come off, ensuring that he is indeed the fastest on the field. Alright, Thunderbolt doesn't quite knock out. Roost will get Zapdos back up to full, and the Spore comes out to put that Zapdos back to sleep. Alright, so now even with the icy wind, the tailwind on Samuel's side is probably still good enough to outspeed that Gengar. And so we might see a potential protect out of that Gengar, or maybe even a switch out into that Kartana. Alright, so we do see a protect off of Breloom there, and the Thunderbolt goes into that Gengar spot, and we do see Kartana go down. And a turn of sleep was eaten by Zapdos there. So on Alex's side, you probably want to bring in the your Gengar back so you can limit the offensive pressure that the opposing Zapdos has on the field, because it's probably going to force a protect out of him. Alright, so we do see the protect out of Gengar, and the Roost on Zapdos, trying to keep itself topped off to prevent any crazy chip knockouts coming along its way. We do see Bullet Seed doing about 8% per hit here. And there's the 3. Can we get 5? Nope, just 3. So doing a little over 25% there to Zapdos. Alright, and then the Tailwind does end for Samuel there. And alright, so now Gengar is in a very commanding position here, threatening knockout on Breloom and Zapdos. So this is actually going to come down to about a 50-50 here. Can Alex pick the right one that's going to protect? Alright, so Breloom does protect here. And the Sludge Bomb does go into Zapdos. Is it enough to knock out? No, not quite, but he does get the poison. So that's gonna keep... Oh, okay. So Zapdos does wake up, but he doesn't go for the double. So Tailwind's back up now. But Zapdos is indeed poisoned. So maybe Alex can call the Roost here on Zapdos. And maybe go for that attack. And Breloom's still always threatening that Spore on either Gengar or Zapdos, so you can't just ignore the Breloom. So Gengar does protect, and the Zapdos does indeed Roost, so not going for that read there. And Breloom does Spore that Zapdos again. So that Zapdos hasn't really done much this game because it's been asleep constantly. So Poison does chip away at that Zapdos there. So this position that Alex is now in is pretty tricky. Both of his opponent's Pokemon outspeed the Gengar. He's going for the double, but he does not get it. And now he's going to try to target down that Zapdos. Alright, and the Bullet Seed is enough to knock out the Gengar there with the critical hit, but that doesn't really... I wouldn't have really changed anything. Alright, so we have Breloom and a Zapdos that's poisoned versus a Zapdos that's sleeping. So Alex needs to wake up now if he is to have a chance to come back in this. He got the turn to sleep on the first instance of sleep, but let's see if he can get another one. Not opting for the protect, and that does knock out Zapdos. So Samuel able to control the board with that Breloom Spore with status, and able to put enough pressure with the rain option that he brought along too. Um, gave him the win there. So going on into game 2, Alex needs to figure out a way to deal with that Breloom. Knowing that that Breloom has Spore now, he might opt to bring Tapu Fini, because the Misty Terrain does indeed block status, but only to Pokemon that are grounded. So the likes of Zapdos and Landorus will still get spored if Misty Terrain is up. And on Samuel's side, I bet he's pretty happy on how the game turned out, so I don't expect too many changes coming out from him. So going into game 2 here, we'll probably see, probably still see that rain option brought on Sam's side. So there's the Pelipper and Zapdos on Sam's side there. So rain is up, so that heat wave that Sam showed last game is going to be hindered a little bit, and that may make Kartana survive that heat wave a little bit better. Alright, so if you're Alex, you're probably wanting to set up the Tailwind to match the opponent's Tailwind here, and maybe try to get that Icy Wind off as well to slow down the, in this case, the Swift Swim and the potential Tailwind coming out of that Zapdos. So here comes that Mega Gengar, and at this point Samuel is locked into those two choices. We do see the Icy Wind. It's going to lower their speed by 1 stage there. And we see the Tailwind out of Sam. And okay, and we saw Alex go for the aggressive route and trying to pick off that Pelipper before it became an issue. However, that was a nice read on Samuel's side to switch in Seismitoad. So Gengar protects here, fearing the ground type attack out of Seismitoad. But Seismitoad goes for the Muddy Water instead. With the Rain Boost, it should probably do about half to Zapdos here. And the double into Zapdos, is it enough? No, it's not. So Zapdos' berry here should bring it back up to about 75%. And so now Alex has his own Tailwind up this turn. Alright, so let's see. Now, on Alex's side, you got to realize that the Seismitoad is the threat here. So you might need to target into it, hopefully to pick it off before it's able to do too much disrupting with the Muddy Water accuracy drops. Both Pokemon do survive, and Roost does land for Zapdos here. Another interesting interaction, since Zapdos did Roost, it is not very effective because it does lose the Flying type for that turn, for the rest of that turn. So in the case where there's a Breloom on the field, Alex has the option of roosting that turn to prevent the Spore from affecting it if Misty Terrain's on the field. Just an interesting option that he has. So Seismitoad is protecting here, fearing the attack into it. Might actually see a double into Zapdos because of that Protect being red. That did a lot, so that was a crit. But it was too much and it procced the Citrus Berry again. And we do see the double into that Zapdos. Alright, and we do see Gengar go down. So we do have an issue here on Alex's side. Does he actually have anything left that can pressure that Seismitoad? Oh yes, he does have that Kartana. So since Seismitoad did protect last turn, we're more likely going to see a switch out, and we'll see if he actually did bring either Chandelure or Metagross over that Breloom. But he can always switch out to Pelipper. And since Samuel's Tailwind did end last turn, Alex does have the initiative on speed. So both of Samuel's Pokemon are being threatened for knockouts. So here comes that Breloom. So we do know Samuel's 4 now. He brought the same 4 as he did in Game 1. Leaf Blade's still doing a lot for being resisted there. And Thunderbolt doing enough to knock out that Zapdos. So Rain did end, unfortunately for Samuel, so that means Seismitoad is no longer a safe switch-in. So Pelipper is now out on the field, setting up that Rain once again. Now, if you're Samuel, the biggest thing that you need to knock out is indeed that Kartana. So once you knock out that Kartana, I don't think Alex has anything that can handle the Pelipper Seismitoad combo left for Samuel. So Mach Punch does take it down to the sash with that crit. And the Sacred Sword does come across onto that Breloom. Is it enough? It is indeed enough to knock out that Breloom. So we'll see if Alex opted for the Thunderbolt. Yes, he did. So Samuel losing 2 Pokemon this turn. And just having that Seismitoad left. But Rain is up, so for a turn, Samuel is going to be faster than Alex's side of the field because Alex does not have Tailwind up right now. So it may come down to some muddy waters, but we'll see. So Muddy Water goes into the Kartana's Protect, but it does hit Zapdos. Is it enough to knock it out? It is not. And so that Tailwind should seal up the game here. And we're actually going to have our first Game 3 on stream. So at this point, if you're on the Samuel side here, what went wrong this game that didn't happen in the first game? Well, it looks like that he was not able to get as many spores off this round. So Alex being able to adjust around that status condition quite well. So we may see a different mode come out of Samuel here for the adjustment. More than likely see the Chandelure hit the field because it does have some good two good Pokemon one-on type matchups here. And if you're able to get that Chandelure into Tailwind, it is a monster to deal with for 3 turns. And so both players very confident in their choices here going into Game 3. Alright. So Sam does send out Zapdos and Seismitoad going for a little more of an aggressive lead. And we do see Zapdos and Gengar. And we do see the other Zapdos pressure going off first, so that could be an indication that that Zapdos is indeed faster. And that makes the Zapdos for Alex a little more bulky. So Mega Gengar is on the field now, so Zapdos and Seismitoad are indeed locked into their spots there. Alright, Icy Wind does come across, slowing them down ever so slightly. And we do have the Tailwind, and now if the Tailwind's matched on Alex's side, then Alex will have the advantage since Samuel is at -1 speed. So the Earth Power comes across. Is it enough to knock out Gengar? Oh yes, it is. Alright. So Alex losing his disruption in the form of not being able to switch. So that gives Samuel a little more freedom in his move choices here. We might actually see Kartana come in to threaten the Seismitoad. Alex taking his time, because this is a big decision here. This is game 3 of round 4, so the winner of this likely making it in, and the loser not proceeding into top cut. Alright, so if you're Alex here, you have two choices. You can either protect Kartana, trying to protect with the Seismitoad, or you try to switch out, of course, and go into, oh, the Feeny that's brought this time. Okay. Alright, so Pelipper is back on the field. So we now know that Samuel did bring his rain option again. Thunderbolt does do a lot to Zapdos, but it's going to be nullified from that Citrus Berry. So switching into Pelipper and then the Heat Wave is kind of an interesting move there. It may have not worked out in his favor, because reducing your own damage there. So Alex is in a little more of a... I feel Alex is in a commanding lead here. Alright. Thunderbolt into Pelipper, though he did not guess the right protect there. So Calm Mind is... It's time to start spamming Calm Minds, because this Zapdos is indeed threatening a lot of damage on to Feeny. Alright, and would we see any recovery moves from Samuel Zapdos here? Possibly trying to predict the protect off of Feeny here. And that Pelipper is basically in the field right now just to take a hit. And so Pelipper does do his job and take that Thunderbolt away from the other Zapdos there. And the Muddy Water does miss, and that was huge. That Muddy Water with the rain possibly being able to do enough to knock out that Zapdos before the Roost comes along. Alright, so Breloom is back out on the field threatening that Tapu Fini with Bullet Seed. So Zapdos may have to try to do some miracles here to deal with that Breloom. So if you're on Sam's side here, you're probably more worried about the Tapu Fini than Zapdos at this point, because that's the only real threat that Alex has on the field right now. And we can see Alex taking his time. This is such a big decision right here. So Tapu Fini does indeed protect. And he does go for the Tailwind here. The Bullet Seed does go into the Protect, so nice call on there. But also a nice call on Samuel's side to match that Tailwind. Alright, so that turn was basically wasted to just burn a Protect, basically. So Hidden Power does come along. Is it enough? Not quite. And the Bullet Seed does come across. One. Oh yes, that is... We'll see. I think Breloom needs 3 Bullet Seeds to knock this out. So here's 2. Is it 3? Oh no, it's just 2! Oh my gosh, that was very, very fortunate on Alex's side. And the Heat Wave comes across, and it's not going to do hardly anything to that +1 special defense in the rain, Fini. Alright, rain does end now, and so that Seismitoad is going to come back in, but unfortunate timing on the weather there. So Alex being able to turn this around off of a 2-hit Bullet Seed. So the Thunderbolt goes into the opposing Zapdos. Not quite enough. Earth Power does knock out Fini. Alright, and the Roost coming along. So maybe it wasn't enough. So Kartana comes back in here. This is such a delicate situation on both sides. You just gotta be able to time when they're not gonna protect their main attacker here. So Kartana's gonna try to protect with Seismitoad here, which it does. We might see a Heat Wave come out of that, the Samuel's Zapdos there. No, another Roost. Alright, so Tailwind for both sides end, so nothing's really changed in turn order, except for that Seismitoad is now in threat of the Leaf Blade knockout. We might see a double. That doesn't work for Seismitoad there. So now looks like it's going to be a close finish here. We do see Tailwind coming out from... Alright, and Kartana, it misses Kartana, so that is basically game at this point. Well played by both players, but the game isn't over quite yet. Leaf Blade comes across to do about half, and Thunderbolt is there to finish off that Zapdos. And well played to both players. It was a crazy back and forth game 3, and Oh man, what a fitting way to finish Swiss. We do have a very interesting team with Chandelure and Breloom. We didn't quite get to see the Chandelure, unfortunately, um, but well played to both players.